time in college, I sort of thought helping with electrification of cars.
Hello and welcome. Ever wonder how exactly Elon Musk became a billionaire? Most of us are familiar with his background. He became a multimillionaire in his late 20s when he sold his startup company Zip2 to a division of Compaq Computers. Then he founded XCOM in 1999, which later became PayPal. Then came SpaceX in 2002 and Tesla Motors in 2003. He reached billionaire status in 2012 at the age of 40. Sure, Elon Musk is incredibly smart, extremely driven, and willing to embrace huge levels of risk. But the real lessons behind his success are ones every aspiring entrepreneur can benefit from. If becoming incredibly wealthy is your goal, then a visionary risk-taker like Musk might make a good role model.
That makes a big difference, but affects a sort of small to moderate number of people is great.
And if amassing considerable wealth is your goal, you face an inescapable truth. You will never become incredibly wealthy by working for someone else. That's the problem with working for someone else. Unless you're the CEO of a Fortune 50 company, and let's face it, there are only so many of those slots available, you will only make so much money. Work for someone else, and you can do well, even extremely well, but you probably won't get super rich. It all sounds so easy, especially if you're Elon Musk, but if you want to become incredibly wealthy, here is the primary lesson to take from Musk's success. Starting a successful business is the only realistic way to become incredibly wealthy. Musk has revolutionized every industry he's touched. E-cash with PayPal, electric cars with Tesla, rocket technology at SpaceX, and energy services at Solar City. And he believes failure is necessary on the path of success. And while its success might seem overnight, Tesla was founded in 2003. So if taking a shot at becoming incredibly wealthy is your thing, and because achieving that level of success will also take considerable time, the time to start is now.
Really believing in your ideals and sticking to them. Well, I think first of all I should say that I did not expect to be involved in all these things. So the 5 things that I thought about at the time in college, so quite a long time ago, 25 years ago, making life multiplanetary, accelerating the transition to sustainable energy, the internet, broadly speaking, genetics and AI. I think I didn't expect to be involved in all of those things. I actually, at the time in college, I sort of thought helping with electrification of cars was how I would start out, and that's actually what I worked on as an intern, was advanced ultracapacitors to see if they would be a breakthrough relative to batteries for energy storage in cars. And then when I came out to go to Stanford, that's what I was going to be doing my grad studies on, was working on advanced energy storage technologies for electric cars. And then I put that on hold to start an internet company in 95, because there does seem to be like a time for particular technologies when they're at a steep point in the inflection curve. And I didn't want to do a PhD at Stanford and watch it all happen. And I wasn't entirely certain that the technology I'd be working on would actually succeed. Like you can get a doctorate on many things that ultimately do not have a practical bearing on the world. Sometimes not enough. Sleep is really great, because I find if I don't get enough sleep, then I'm quite grumpy. I mean, obviously, I think most people are that way. And also, I try to sort of figure out what's the right amount of sleep, because I found I could drop below a certain threshold of sleep, and although I'd be awake more hours and I could sustain it, I would get less done because my mental acuity would be affected. So I found generally the right number for me is around 6 to 6.5 hours on average per night. As mentioned, I was quite interested in electric cars from when I was doing my undergrad physics, and in fact, I originally came out to California to do a PhD at Stanford in applied physics and material science to work on ultracapacitors in electric cars. So it was a long-standing interest of mine, and the internet kind of put that on hold for a few years. But then after PayPal, I decided I wanted to get back into electric vehicles and make something happen in that arena, particularly since GM had come out with the EV1, and I thought, okay, well, there's not really a need for a startup company to develop electric cars, because obviously GM is going to create the EV2 and the EV3, that's logical sequence. get better and better with each iteration, and so not really need for a new company in that arena. But actually what happened was that after California changed the regulations to no longer require electric cars, GM recalled all the EV1s, and then just to make sure that nobody could get them back, they crushed them in a lot somewhere. While they were being crushed, the people who'd been the EV1 owners who did not want those cars recalled actually held a candlelit vigil as though somebody was getting executed, basically. And it's like, that just seemed extremely crazy that GM would ignore this, because it's quite rare for people to hold a candlelit vigil about a product. I think the first is you need to work, depending upon how well you want to do, and particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. So what does super hard mean? When my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. So briefly had a girlfriend in that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. Work hard like every waking hour. That's the thing I would say, particularly if you're starting a company. If you're creating a company or if you're joining a company, the most important thing is to attract great people. So either join a group that's amazing, that you really respect, or building a company, you've got to gather great people. I mean, all a company is a group of people that have gathered together to create a product or service.